I want a sandwich. Now. Oh, sandwich wench. Yo, wench. Sandwich. Now. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. Sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. Oh, sandwich wench. I want a sandwich. Sandwich.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another political recap stream here on the Moisky Live channel. Hope you're all well. Sorry we've been gone for 2 to 3 weeks. We have lives, which is a novel concept for someone like myself because I'm what you call INTJ. We don't generally go out. It's in our genetics. Joining me to talk about some stuff, I actually don't know what stuff, but I'm sure a mugshot or two might feature, is Trups. Say hello, Trups.
Hello, Trups.
How is Trups?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, why not?
How's your week? Because weeks, because you weren't here for one of them and then I wasn't for the other.
Yes, vacation into LARP into then
LARP?
your trip.
Yeah, I went to see Trivium and then went whiskey shopping and then went on a boat, which you've seen the pictures of. It was... I don't take photos well. I think every photo my friend Dave took of me, my middle finger was firmly placed up. I don't know why I do that, because I actually I'm not unphotogenic. I just, for some reason, my middle finger just says, "Hi, I want to be in this picture as well." I don't know why I do that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a very what's it called?
I don't know.
It's a very millennial thing. It's very like punk rock of the '90s.
Such a millennial thing. Fuck you. Not you. Just the idea of sticking your finger up because of millennial. Oh dear.
Yes.
I bet it's right as well. The one thing about those pictures that I love, and you've seen them, is that I did legitimately buy that hat at a gift shop when we stopped. Because it was the only... I saw it, and then others were like, oh, I don't know if I buy it. And I saw it, and it fit my head, and was like, right, well, I'm buying this then. I then bought chocolate biscuits, which I haven't opened yet, and they're down there. Yeah.
Huzzah! Is that like wafers?
No, cookies. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't... they say chocolate chip cookies. I haven't opened them. I have no idea. They're still wrapped up in the paper the lady put them in. Inside a tube. But
are they fresh?
I don't know. But the hat is actually hung in my room. I might get the word "daddy" embroidered, so my name will be Captain Daddy.
Okay. I do have to tell you, and this might be too much information, but I went to a store.
Yeah.
Specifically for adults.
I don't want Captain Daddy anymore.
In there. Well, hold on. You'll like this. There was a series of fans, like hand fans, one that can hold, and I think they still had a bunch of their Pride stuff up.
Right.
And there was some of these fans. I mean, they're thick too. I almost kind of want them just for using them at LARP.
Right.
They have very good material. Across them, however, says things like "slay bitch."
Oh no.
Daddy.
Daddy.
Boss bitch.
That cringe is the stuff I see on girls who wear certain tracksuit bottoms, and on the backside it says "juicy," "hot stuff." That kind of crap.
Well, Juicy is actually a brand.
If someone has a juicy backside and they decide on the backside and they don't have a juicy backside, I feel like it's false advertising. I should be able to go to the advertising standards agency and get a fine for them.
Juicy is a brand that is, I believe, co-owned by Victoria's Secret.
That does not surprise me.
It is their less lingerie, less intimate wear, and more of their
casual wear.
Casual wear. but that's what the Juicy brand is, and yeah.
I've seen the knockoff version they sell in cheap shops, basically.
What does it say? Juicy, like Jussy?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't generally make it a point to look at their backsides because they look like jail bait, and I'd rather not be in trouble.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
I just noticed the word and think this stuff's inappropriate. It also looks like crap, trash, white trash kind of clothing, you know.
Yes, well, that is absolutely accurate. Yeah.
Anyway,
100%.
how was your LARP?
Part was good. Hot, very hot.
God, you've actually had a summer, haven't you?
Yes, we've had quite the summer.
We've not had a summer at all. I've got someone sat next to me who likes heat. Can he confirm loudly and clearly whether it has been summer this year?
No, definitely not.
Right. The highest I've
Can
seen
he describe to me what he means by he likes heat?
Can he describe to me what he means by he likes heat?
Like, it needs to be 30 degrees plus, preferably where there's a pool, but,
30 degrees.
What is 30 degrees in American?
What's degrees in American?
I don't know.
Yeah,
86 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he likes actual heat. I don't mind it, to be fair. I can tolerate it, especially in my current build. I'm quite comfortable, actually, in most heats now. But this summer hasn't been higher than 26.
Well, I will tell you that we have had several days above 37.
Fahrenheit-ish.
Okay, Dave would probably have sweltered in that as well, to be honest. 37.
Yeah.
I've been hotter.
Everything's short.
That's fine. If you say so.
I'm in ish now.
Yeah. Don't worry.
You're wearing pants?
Well, he's wearing cargos now, shorts.
Oh, okay.
Easy access. Anyway, so I'm glad you had a good LARP. I had a great gig. Bought lots of swag and whiskey. It's great.
Woo!
I'm glad both of us had a good time. It's great to get back into this, actually.
Yes, it is, and we have a lot to get to.
But where do we start, though, Trups?
Fuck me. That's a great question.
Might be a better place to start because I have no idea where the topics start.
I guess we probably can just start with the thing that's on everyone's mind.
The thing that he tweeted out?
Yeah.
I cannot believe he came back to Twitter to tweet his own mugshot.
Yep.
That,
so,
to me,
Donald Trump...
that's king. That is absolute king.
Indicted for the 4th time.
How many mugshots have been
taken? I'm in Georgia. I'm sorry, what?
How many mugshots have been taken at this point? Because I've only seen that one. Just the one.
One. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant then. I wonder how they treated him. Did they lock him in that upper or did he just do a picture?
No, he just did a picture, fingerprinting, standard booking process, but he wasn't held in remand. But important details. So let me give the context to those who may not be aware. So Donald Trump was indicted for the 4th time in Georgia regarding his interference with the 2020 election, allegedly.
Which part of it? Because he hasn't interfered with this. He's called the question of it.
The argument that the DA, Fannie Willis, is making in Georgia is specifically in Fannie, F-A-N-I.
Their name is Fannie Willis.
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
So the context is, of course, that they have basicto Trump plus 18 other co-conspirators to answer your question. The part that they allege that he interfered with was that the phone call that he made to Brett Rathsberger, I believe that's the AG, and Brian Kemp. Yes.
Are they attorney generals for the federal or for the state?
For the state.
Right.
It was him seeking out. Carly, you might be in for a bad time.
No. Because if they did actually say that, that's actually funnier.
They did. In fact.
That is. I'm sorry. I will admit, it's not good optics, but that's, as an Englishman, I find that very funny.
Because actual people have also said that to him who are also black.
Yeah, don't, because they'll just get called token, won't they? Just to be clear here, I as an Englishman, I find this whole thing hilarious. and you'll be very hard pressed to find me ever taking this remotely seriously, because it's not something. It's not serious. There's not enough really to substantiate a level of severity, to be honest. So you have to laugh. And by the way, giving him street cred is
there you go.
Fucking brilliant. It's just so dumb. All of it is, because it's such party politics, bickering, and trying to make something stick. But the substance part is really important, and that's where critical thought is vital. And you don't see that as much, and that's a shame, because you need to see it, because the process can't be respected without it.
Well, right now, the process has been fully called into question for a number of things. One, because Trump is saying it, but the other is because so I have this problem resolving this logical train of thought. So the accusation, when he called Brian Kemp, said, "I need to find 11,000 something votes." That is their quote unquote smoking gun for this effort.
Is it a smoking
Additionally,
gun?
I'm sorry?
Is it a smoking gun?
I mean, for the purposes that they claim, that the intention that they have attributed to him, then yes. So if they have a the attributed statement or the intention saying,
right,
he means to invent or to lie and say, "I need to find 11,000 votes," then yes, that would be criminally culpable.
So
if you take the more what's the word, giving him some room to wiggle, then
a little quid pro quo kind of thing going on.
Well, what you would say is he wants to find them, so perform recounts, perform signature checks.
Buy time.
You could say that, yeah. Or also perform an audit, and that's the number that he needs to find.
I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
So, how do you prove intent with any of that?
They desperately need to have somebody have a recording of him basically saying, "I know I lost, but," and then blah blah blah.
I'm kind of curious here then. Do you believe they have that?
No, they don't.
So then what's the point? Other than
he's currently being charged under a RICO conspiracy, which is essentially a criminal enterprise condition or policy.
That sounds really bad.
Well, yeah, it's basically like if you were to engage in a criminal enterprise, this is the same kind of stuff they would go after mobsters for, right?
Like Al Capone, stick him in Alcatraz.
Yeah, basically.
We could do that. That'd be funny.
It's the same idea. Giuliani did it when he cleaned up the mob in New York. But RICO charges essentially allege that Trump and 18 co-conspirators basically worked together to steal the 2020 election.
Okay.
So every person has a part in this conspiracy, and basically would be alleged to be in some form basically furthering the end goal of installing Trump as president.
Well, the problem they have right now is there's still a big chance, based on the current state of the Republican Party, he will be the front and the nominee anyway.
100% he still will
be. That's not me saying he wins, by the way, just to be clear here. Because based on 3 years ago, I don't know. I still thought he was going to beat Biden just because of his popularity alone. And because I felt there were some policies he was enacting that actually weren't... His international foreign relation work was actually quite commendable, I felt. With the Middle East and with North Korea. There was something going on at least, and I felt that there was some potential. Shame it never happened.
And let's also remember that as far as the Russia situation was going, Russia did not invade Ukraine or any other neighboring area. He did it when Obama was in office, and he did it when Biden was in office. Didn't do it while Trump was in office, and I don't know why.
Crimea, yeah. So I just want to, there were aspects you can't just... I mean, the mob boss, I'm reading chat. Hi, Carly, hope you're well. There might be a point to that, to be honest, but you have to still prove it. And that's a point. Well, the mob boss player, you don't really have to prove that. but proving everything that he's being charged with. When we've seen charges so far, hello Michael, hello everyone in the chat, by the way, hello David. I see you in my chat as well. But with all these charges, you've got to prove them, otherwise you're just throwing something. I want to make a Scrubs reference, like Dr. Cox talking to JD, throw the tile on whatever sticks as the correct dosage. Same with the charges. And I think we desperately need, if you really want to prove the intent, you've got to prove it. And I will happily, obviously, then say if it's proven, then of course there is some guilt there. But without it, you have to presume innocence until then. And I do crime content, so I do have to abide that.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, right now, because I watch or listen to MSNBC almost every day,
you poor thing.
They are falling into an issue. Mm-hmm. They are speaking with confidence, or speaking as a statement of fact, that he did perform actions that would be criminal, and they are asserting that now all they have to do is perform the motions of court to basically say this is now legitimate, sign off, done deal, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, because of how they're doing this, they're presuming facts before the court hears it, and they are asserting it then on the media,
I think
which pisses me off.
I find there's a problem with that, because say this eventually goes to a trial, you can't call a jury in, can you? You can't do it. You can't do it with a jury, so because there's too many people on their side. But you can't. There's no one that has. So this is a case. It is poisoning the well, and I think that's really. I think it's such a day. You cannot. It has to go before a jury, yes, but if it does. But it can't, because you will not find anyone who doesn't know who one or the other is. Mm-hmm. Unless you go to the sticks and people just blindly vote red, not knowing, or blindly vote. Actually, no, they just blindly vote blue. But you know what I mean. And the slide dig. Don't take it the way it's said. I mean, if they live in the sticks and they vote blue blindly, then they're just voting because blue. And same people live in this. If you're living so far removed from the rest of society, you just vote for your colour. Yeah. I don't mean race, I mean party. I just think you're not going to be able to do it. And so I'm really curious how you get it to that stage. Because that's what this is about. It is obviously the court of public opinion assigns whatever they want to assign. I fully understand that. We saw it with Amber Heard and it was proven true. But it had to be proven true first. To be confirmed. The bias, we all had confirmation bias, but we wanted to make sure once it was definitive, that's what you want. You need it. But how do you do it if everything before every concerted effort possible is being made to make sure that it looks as bad or worse than everyone in the world knows about it, or everyone in your country knows about it? I think it makes the process that you need to respect impossible to adhere to, and I don't think that can be considered. I don't think that can be considered a very good tactic. If, say, you want to get rid of Trump. This is probably not the best way to do it, because while it does time up with red tape, it doesn't stop him running. Right? It doesn't stop him running, and I do think this does make him more popular.
Absolutely, it does. There are various different people, content creators, who have gone into the wild and act individuals.
So it's not just that, though, is it? It's also people who are now watching as places are being damaged and the president hasn't reacted, and people are getting a form. I'm not saying all. Some are getting buyer's remorse because they're seeing their president not doing, because he is your president, not doing anything, or not doing something when others would act. And I'm not saying Trump would act. I'm not saying anyone would act. I'm saying others have in the past acted immediately, but this time not. And I think when these things go wrong, the slower to react response makes people look and then go, we made a bad choice here, guys. Can we just take a moment? I'm not saying all again. I'm just saying, come on, don't be so naive to think that no one's going to have some buyer's remorse from this.
Well, it kind of on the same vein as the timing aspect. One question that has been levied several times looking at this is, why did they not charge him with these things 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Right? The investigations did not begin until much later. Why now do they then press the indictment? And why now that we are now approaching the election do all these things come out, right? 2023, all of these indictments finally dropped. Jack Smith has not been working on this since 2020.
Well, there is going to be something interesting to add to this, because don't forget here, and it was in Trump's final year, COVID hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a horrendous year for him and anyone really. But in his politics, it wasn't good at all. Mm-hmm. It was terrible. We agreed on this because it just, how do you handle it? 'Cause no one knew what to do. Right. And now we find that, as I put in the chat, there is an electric boogaloo possibly coming. I'd like to see how Biden handles this, because people didn't like it last time.
It's a very, very complicated task when you look at that. Biden is going to have to navigate this very carefully if he has even an inkling that he is going to maintain power. Unfortunately, even 69% of Democrats agree that Biden is too old to run.
I would have said it's not so much his age, it's his brain. Because I don't think it's just his age, it's his age that's done that.
Right.
I think there's, and no offense to people who do support Biden, I don't mean this to be a dickhead, but there are a couple of people in office, many in fact, who are Democrat and Republican. Don't forget Mitch McConnell here in his little his little mini.
He needs to go too.
They do. We agreed on this a few weeks back. There should be. I do think there should be an age limit. I do think there should be, and if there isn't, there should be at least some kind of regular heavy duty screening.
Well, okay. If there is any kind of condition that a senator has that impairs their mental faculties, whether that be stroke in Fetterman's case, or just age in Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein's case,
Nancy Pelosi in the House,
y'all need to go. I'm sorry,
Nadler
you need to go. Yeah, Jerry Nadler too. But it's like,
he can't walk.
You guys need to go.
And it's anyone who's on any party. I do think there should be an age limit. I think it should be a simple test, and I think we can. I think we should agree that the best way to test someone to see whether they're fit for office is a reflex test. If they can stop me from slapping them in the face without them using any security, they should be allowed to continue. If they can't stop me, it won't matter because they won't wake up quick. I do it with a Nerf gun. I've got an automatic, it shoots like 12 in like 3 seconds. It's amazing. And the court date is March the 4th. That is quite coincidental, isn't it? And the optics are horrendous. So we should hit pause and let someone suspected of some crimes that make him ineligible for the presidential run. Suspected is a very, very important word, though.
And also, that's not exactly how that reads. So, I have it here, the 14th Amendment, Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, or elector of the president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress, as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid and comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may vote a vote of 2/3 of each house to remove such disability.
Well, they like to vote on party lines, and there are a number of Republicans that aren't overly fond of Trump anyway.
That is correct. But unfortunately, this is still not even a court case that would disqualify him.
So what about the other ones in New York?
So New York is the withholding of documents.
Okay, that's something else. Okay.
DC is the January 6th. That's actually the one that would disqualify him.
Has anything happened on that yet?
No, actually, the DC court case has been rather quiet by comparison. And you might think that you would imagine that would be louder, but they already went through that impeachment and he wasn't removed. So they have not a very good leg to stand on because of that. Because all of that impeachment hearing has already been out there. It's already been handled. So
okay,
defense is just going to look at that and go, I mean, look, we've had this conversation already.
Do you think he? Oh God, hang on. No, don't bite. Do you think that this one's just being dawdled on just so it stays active, like it looks active, or?
The DC one, I think it's because they don't have as much, but also Jack Smith is responsible for like 2 out of 3 of these, so he's responsible for the 2 in.
Who's that?
In DC, Jack Smith. He's the special prosecutor. Okay. He's also investigated Bob Menendez in the past
okay.
for fun information context.
Okay.
That didn't pan out.
Right.
In case you're wondering, he's still holding a senateship in fucking New Jersey, despite all of his actual and like visible corruption.
What happened to Mueller after his rather deflated, heavily redacted, and still a load of crap when not redacted reports?
He's appeared before Congress several times to rebut or comment on other people's opinions on the situation. But otherwise, his career has kind of.
That report wasn't as concrete.
Kind of whispered out.
I remember we went through that. It was not as. Yeah. So there is. I feel like perhaps, and I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus here.
You're trying so hard.
I really don't want to, but I feel like there's a slight misunderstanding. Go on. I assume you
No. You started.
Carly, you mentioned in the chat that January 6th got to you from the point of view he commanded people to do dangerous things to themselves for his ego. I remember on Twitter the day it happened, I saw the video of him talking about peaceful protesting, telling people to go home, I believe, as well, to act peacefully. I know the word fight gets used a lot, but he didn't use it. Fight for democracy, but not that kind of fight, was used. And the video was then removed and his account terminated, so it disappeared. I do believe it's up. Although, is it back up? It should be up on his account now.
Several people have reposted it in the past.
Yeah, but he, on the day it happened, he was very much, he said peaceful, and he did tell him to go home. And then there's been videos since showing the people in the building. Obviously, you had people like AOC say that she was somewhere, and she wasn't. You also had the video showing the police escorting Mantar and others just around the building as if they were getting a tour. Some people not obviously doing some rather jackassery things with the podium, was it? Plinth thing? The
yes.
Whatever it's called. The one in Pelosi's office, that's interesting.
And of course, Baked Alaska and his live stream.
Oh, Baked Alaska went to prison there recently, didn't he?
Yes, he did, because he live streamed himself breaking into a window.
So he struck a plea deal originally, became a snitch, I believe, but I still believe he had to go to prison for a time. And during that time, one of his America First friends, whose platform he was using, Nick Fuentes, then yeeted him off the platform because he didn't like him anymore. I assume it's because he's a snitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he's a snitch.
Because we're gonna take the word of some catboy loving like little twink, super serious.
Damn, bro.
That man just eats McDonald's and looks sweaty and spotty and wears a shirt from the waist up. He's a twink.
Now I will follow on with that statement. The language used, "fight like hell," ironically has been used by everyone in the political landscape. Not just Republicans, not just Democrats, everyone. To even try and pretend like this kind of conversation or these words are used in a certain context is self-delusion, and it is basically performing all different types of contortions so that you can believe to yourself that Orange Man's still bad, despite people like, oh god, what was her name? You go out there and you make a crowd.
I don't know.
Maxine Waters.
Oh, I remember.
In which she said, "You go out there and you make a crowd. You push back on them and you tell them they are not welcome." That's a little bit more clean and clear cut in terms of a call to action. Rather than something ambiguous like fight like hell. I believe, in fact, Hillary Clinton used it several times during her campaign.
It's
regardless.
It's very aggressive language, but there is a line, and many do respect it. But what I learned during the time of Trump's term was that there was so much violence, and it was downplayed massively. And this was legit buildings being incinerated, violence.
Well, let's not forget the people who were locked inside of a police station, and then the police station was set on fire.
What about the Kingdom of Chad?
The Kingdom of Chad. Yes. Oh, how about this one? Do you remember the protest, quote unquote, that happened outside of the White House?
I do. I remember those.
You know, with the fires and shit.
This, by the way, you cannot. I'm not gonna now say, you know, that this is a distraction from other people's differing opinions, but how one was portrayed to the other, I find a rather strange equivalence, because when I see so much fire and actual destruction compared to a bunch of idiots who ignored explicit request of their president to go and do some jackassery, who actually got hurt again?
An Air Force woman got shot climbing through a doorway that the window had been smashed out of. 4 additional people died of health-related issues, not related to specific instances of violence on the Capitol grounds.
Who shot the Air Force person? If you don't mind me
Capitol
asking?
Police.
Okay, so that was an accident, yes?
No, that was intentional. They were holding a locked area. She climbed through a window. She got shot.
That's not good. I would say that while not comparing the two, you have to understand here that we have seen people acting because of their dislike of a party or a person fronting that party, and those were acting in support of their party. And none of it's excusable, of course not. But I find it strange that when we discuss the fires and all the riots they were just domestic terrorism. It was flagrant destruction.
At least the ones in Washington and Seattle were.
Yeah, they were absolute annihilation, and it was not okay. And I find it strange that so many people are willing to ignore that and say that, but this is more. It's not comparable. It's just that was ignored. And whenever people...
Ashley Babbitt, yes, that was the name of the Air Force woman. Thank you.
When people mention this and others then ignore it, it's like, you've got to realize here, you can say Republicans are bad if you like, or Trump's bad. I couldn't give a fuck. I'm English, remember? We have conservatives and Labour. Honestly, it's absolute dog shit right now. But as an older nation, we do have to have a little chuckle here, because we look at all your parties and say, you are no better. And you're much more violent than we are. Now, anyway.
Well, I was going to say, when you guys were 300 years old, you were also pretty violent.
Yeah, because we were being invaded by the fucking Vikings.
Yeah, and so, okay, fine. The French in the 1700s decided to just off people in the street. What do you want?
I mean, the guillotine was a pretty good invention, let's face it.
If you want to go there, yeah, Europe, yes, okay. Looking at us, yes, by and large, actually, I can't even say that. By invoking France, I can't even say that America is much more violent.
France is funny now. They just wear high-vis jackets in France and just protest, and they get shot with water cannons.
Yeah, except their protests include actual fucking mayhem.
Yeah, at least theirs is actual whereas where'd you go, you cunt?
Brain.
No, there's a bug that's floating on my desk. I'm ready to kill it. It's interesting to see how different countries protest, of course. But when I've seen what has been dubbed a protest in America during the 4 years of Trump, compared to protests like here, like Just Stop Oil with their little spray orange of everything, it's very different. Because what we portray as just mindless and pathetic middle-class destruction of plexiglass, you guys go, no fam, you get some barbecue firelighters and you go to town. If there's some TNT, don't you worry, bro. We'll light that too.
Well, right. But anyway, something to touch back on the original topic.
Yes.
What's interesting to me, and this is probably the step too far part that I don't like, is that amongst the 18 co-conspirators that are charged along with the Georgia indictment are about 8 or so lawyers.
Who are they?
Who were providing a service in which he could explore legal theory, but they are now accusing those people of a furtherance of a conspiracy because of their legal advice.
Are they trying to prevent them from performing their duty as legal counsel?
Yes.
That is...
in my opinion, yes.
That comes across as rather corrupt. But without knowing the full facts, that's just an observation from the outside. Again...
Well, would you like to know some facts?
Oh, please, I would like to know as much fact that is fact, not fake news.
Committee on the Judiciary from the Congress of the United States House of Representatives from the 29th of August, 2023.
Yay, facts.
In September 2021, Mr. Bratt reportedly met with an advisor to the White House Chief of Staff. 2 months later, Mr. Bratt again went to the White House to meet with administration officials. During this same period, President Trump's lawyers were negotiating with the National Archives about presidential records from his tenure in office. According to reporting, Mr. Bratt's 2021 White House meetings related to, quote, national security. Subsequently, on March 31st, 2023, just 9 weeks prior to Mr. Smith's indictment of President Trump, Mr. Bratt met with White House counsel, Office Deputy Chief of Staff Caroline Saba, and FBI Special Agent Danielle Ray for a case-related interview. We have previously raised concern about Mr. Bratt's involvement, which you have declined to address. Mr. Bratt is alleged to have improperly pressured a lawyer representing an employee of President Trump to induce the lawyer's client to cooperate with the department's prosecution. Mr. Bratt allegedly commented to the lawyer that he did not think the lawyer was a, quote, Trump guy, and that he would, quote, do the right thing. Mr. Bratt referenced the lawyer's application for a judgeship on the D.C. Superior Court and implied that the application would be received more favorably if his client cooperated with the prosecution of President Trump.
Okay.
In case you are wondering...
I am wondering.
Mr. Bratt is a federal prosecutor investigating Donald Trump.
That sounds a bit...
His name is Jay Bratt. He's a senior counterintelligence supervisor at the Justice Department.
Okay. That seems a bit sus.
Yes. The implications of this information...
Conflict of interest.
Is that people who are responsible for pressing indictments to Donald Trump are specifically working with the White House Chief of Staff.
That is a conflict of interest, surely.
Ah, correct, sir. And one would presume that that means that Joe Biden, if you want to play the game here,
buck stops with him.
Instructed his White House Chief of Staff to tell the Justice Department to indict the president.
To be honest, based on his mental faculties, I'm more inclined to believe someone told him to do that.
Probably the Chief of Staff, actually.
Yeah, either that or I don't know who the next. I mean, I would say VP, but she has her own staff, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. But most of them quit because she was insufferable.
Did they really?
Yeah, that was an article that came out I think it was a year or two ago, where a bunch of Kamala's staff quit because she was difficult to deal with. But basically, this is part one, right?
Yeah.
In which they basically are alleging that the White House has had direct correspondence with the people who are indicting that White House's political opponent. Very, very controversial indeed. Even Donald Trump didn't do that.
Apparently, Kamala Harris is trying to reshape her image for 2024, but Biden's running, isn't he? So she's still going to be the VP, right? Or running mate.
Presumably, as they are incumbents, is very unusual for an incumbent that is still alive, that is willing to run again, doesn't get the nomination in primaries.
Apparently,
However,
Kamala Harris's lack of popularity is entirely because of racism and sexism, according to Biden's ex-chief of staff.
That would track with
Always
the
the
ideology, yes.
Always the race card, man. How about you look at the policy enacted, and also Kamala Harris is Vice President Harris is unpopular for two very big reasons, and they come from her being in California. Her time.
Is it because she's?
I mean, that's the third one. No, the main reasons were because of her time in when she was in charge of the prisons.
Oh yes, and she used
Slave labor.
Yes, she used prisoners as slave labor in order to fight fires. Yes,
and also I believe she had something to do with was it death penalties or life sentences? She did something there.
No, she withheld evidence that could have exonerated certain people in order to keep them working for that fire.
To me, she should never be. That is legitimate. Like, no, you shouldn't be here. That is horrendous. You shouldn't be in high office. But that's proven. How do you prosecute political crimes without it being political? I don't know. That's why I earlier mentioned you can't prosecute it. Because you can't.
Well, actually, there is a way.
How?
And what you do is you can impeach after the fact.
Oh, okay. How does that work?
You can actually levy an impeachment in Congress after the person has left office. So that would be how you do it.
Okay. I think prosecuting political crimes without being political, justice is supposed to be blind, so the political part is not necessarily relevant. But when it comes down to certain questions of interpretation of politics, that's where it becomes a grey area. So it always becomes quite a tricky area to traverse, I think, depending on whether you're going to address each individual issue and try and work it out first, or whether you're going to address the action committed because of what is written down. You have to interpret it as well, though. If you don't, then you don't have the full understanding, and that makes it a grey area, which makes it very difficult to prosecute. But you are right about the impeachment part.
Yes, and additionally, the impeachments that that happened for Donald Trump technically were not constitutional.
No? Why not?
Constitutionally speaking, the Supreme Court head justice is supposed to preside over those impeachments. He did not.
No? Why not?
I don't know. I forget. It was so long ago that I can't remember why.
I remember the impeachment,
but he didn't,
and we had a good chuckle about those. The first one especially, because it just there was no proof. That was the worst part. When we saw the Mueller report, we went through it. We did it on stream. We went through all of it. Well, we got really bored. We went through it, and we could not find anything. And then they voted, and they voted to impeach it.
3 separate episodes.
It took forever. And then we found at the end there was nothing. And it annoyed me because I do halls of injustice, I do crime stuff, I like finding the fact. And there wasn't any. And that annoyed me because he still got impeached anyway. And I'm like, that impeachment should never have happened. It was solely a party line bitch move. And that was so, and I hate that because I want there to be a level of integrity in politics. And of course that is an oxymoron. Yeah,
you're wishful thinking, sir.
Exactly. But in the in the grand scheme of it, that was proof of how pathetic it is. Whole process. It's your version of your politics is very pantomime based, stage show,
Yes,
but
theatric.
yeah, but pantomime because it's just comedic and embarrassing. Whereas ours is just old and dog shit. Yeah, ours is the kind of thing you don't really give a crap about unless someone's being getting a state funeral or a inaugural, what do you call coronation? That's it. Yeah, thank you. I thought I'd look at the royal file next to me. What do they call them? What do you call them? Is it royal file? Monarchist. There we go. He's a monarchist. I'm a dickheadist. You've seen what
Now, I do also want to mention, in regards to the 18 co-conspirators,
Right.
all of them had their mugshots taken, but only one of them was remanded to prison.
Which one?
Well, if I had to have you guess the race of the individual who was remanded to prison.
I don't want to guess. I've already just worked it out. I know.
The one black guy who is ironically the leader of Black Voices for Trump
Oh no.
was the one person who had gotten remanded.
Oh, that doesn't look good. The moment you said that, for God's sake, man, they must have, unless they have something else on them, which obviously there must be, because it can't be just honestly.
Allegedly. Here's what it says. Fulton
Okay,
County Superior Court Judge Emily Richardson determined Floyd, one of the Trump's co-defendants, in his indictment this month on racketeering charges stemming from his alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, posed a flight risk as well as a risk to commit additional criminal felonies if released on bail.
Okay.
That was it. Now, bear in mind, some of the people who are also indicted are millionaires, who have means, who have connections. They don't pose a significant flight risk for some reason. Weird.
It's a bit of a strange one.
Now, to harken back to Carly's comment from much earlier in the stream.
Go on.
Let's talk about the street cred and
Yeah.
things like that. So there have been several content creators, James Klug being one of the more notable names, actually went out and showed people the mugshot and asked them, all right, what do you think? And of course his video is going to be right-leaning, but he had a significant amount of people at least say so. That they thought that Trump's mugshot makes him harder, makes him, that he has credibility, he's got street cred, and that in the eyes of some people, he may be seen as a martyr for more than just political persecution, but rather also for a victim of a overly zealous Justice Department that will put you in prison and book you whether or not you committed the crime. Some of the individuals remarked saying that, of course, it's political. In Klug's video in particular, you had people, Latinos, black people, white people, were basically all of that were included in it, and Latinos seemed to be for Trump. Actually, only the white people were against him.
It's understandable. Like in Germany, they're afraid to be right wing. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's white guilt.
It is. But
you pesky white people, not you, of course. The white ones.
But there was even a Fox News poll that showed that approval ratings for Donald Trump over Joe Biden have gone from in 2020, or approaching the 2020 election, of 8% to now at 20%.
That's a big climb.
Yeah. And Biden dropped pretty significantly. I think he went from like 80 to like 70 something. Which is, it kind of tracks along the statements that perhaps minority communities are giving him a benefit of the doubt.
The one thing I still can't. Maybe it's just in my brain. I don't quite understand why it's still this way. But the fact it still gets devolved down to race.
Because if you devolve it down to class.
Well, no. What I mean is, it's the fact that it still happens in class or race. I don't. It's such a strange thing to talk about defeating racism, but then people track things by race.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely.
It's a very interesting, societal thing. It just fascinates me. But then you see
it's because they
separate themselves. They separate themselves by race usually anyway.
Well, yeah, and it's because the right wants to exist in a colorblind world, and the left wants to exist in a system that has individuals atone for their sins against minorities. They want to use race as a thing that you must respect, whereas the right wants to ignore the fact that you are any other race, basically saying that I don't care what you look like.
Yeah.
Versus, how dare you say that to me? I'm a black person.
I've always preferred being colorblind. I just don't care about.
In the 90s, we were very good at that, actually.
Yeah, I just don't care about race. I know I do find it fascinating when you see crime stats, and that does paint a very alarming picture proportionately. Alarming picture of like, so in America, for example, African Americans make up, is it 18% or something like that of the population? Quite a low percentage of the population.
Something like that.
But the crime numbers are, in many of the different types of crimes, are exponentially or quite high.
And actually, if you even Asian crime, Asians also make up a small minority. But if you look at, in particular, shooting statistics,
I'm guessing it's fraud because they're really good at math.
No. No, shooting statistics. Even Asians are overrepresented in that case.
Oh, okay. So it's not martial art related.
No.
That would be funnier.
But yes, we do have. It's not necessarily even a differences in race. The problem is that a lot of when immigration happens in a country, this is any country, the people from X country go to other people who are from that country. We can see that in Little China, Little Japan,
we have it in the
Little
UK.
Havana.
We have it in the UK.
Oh,
We just call them semi-detached houses where people there's like 30 people in a 3-bedroom house or something.
Yeah, and in Japan, there are all the white people who move around. They all move to similar areas so that they can talk to one another.
Also, in a similar sense to 30 people in a 3-bedroom house, like in Japan, because they got fuck all space.
Yes, but they bring their culture to that country.
Those white people go to Japan because they want to corrupt the Japanese women. Don't deny it, it's true.
What do you mean? The Japanese women are begging for you to get them out of Japan.
Of course. We're not buying them, though. That's not how we do things.
No, it's not like that. But it is sex tourism.
That's the Thai bride.
But yes, but it's a culture that they bring, and when you don't integrate your culture with the culture of the country that you are now a part of, you will feel alienated. You will feel distant. You will feel non-connected to that country, its rules, and you won't feel the same requirement to bend over backwards for your countrymen.
It must be very different, though, for Americans with African Americans and their history, because their culture a lot of a vast number descend from slaves. So it's so finding a culture for them would be is either do you embrace what you were before, where your own people were selling you, or do you and the culture obviously of the respective country that your descendants come from, or is it a case of America be more white?
That's a great question, and I think that actually is a question for all Americans.
I don't mean as a shot because I'm kind of curious.
No, it's fair because again, I'm Hispanic. My father came to America, right?
Which one of those countries was it again?
Cuba.
Trudeau's dad's place, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting divorced. It's hilarious.
And so I have to ask myself a lot of that question too. I often want to be more associated with a Cuban culture, and I do have that in terms of like food and.
Do you like rum?
I do
then,
like rum.
Then you're fine. You're fine. You got your Cuban heritage right there.
And cigars. I also like cigars.
You like a fat Cuban, do you?
Yes. And my dad used to describe them to me. He'd be like, "Yeah, there's an old man who's sitting in a shack in a tobacco field, and there's just a big sweaty fat man just licking a whole bunch of tobacco leaves, rolling them up, and then licking them all over the place. So that cigar you have in your mouth,
we don't fat shame here."
Well, he was. But yeah, so I deal with. Okay, do I identify with an American culture or do I identify with a Hispanic culture? The Puerto Rican side of my family, my mom's side, is still American technically, though they have been distant in terms of the American culture as well. Puerto Rico tries
the 51st American state that never was.
Yes, quite exactly that. They want to be separate from America. Well, they want their own autonomy, but they also want the protections and the stuff that every other state gets.
They want a different deal. They want like a certain Euro memberships where like Norway have a deal different to other countries. We tried to go for a Canada plus deal or some shit. It's like, bitch, no. How about no? I'm saying this sat next to somebody who voted Remain. You know what I mean? It's just that they want to be different. But they can't be because that's not how America works. It doesn't work anyway.
But in terms of culture, then like you have that issue too. But of course, where do a lot of the Hispanics cluster to? South Florida, Miami in particular. Hialeah. South Florida is the place where you want to go, and you'll be, inundated with Hispanic culture. And this is every Hispanic, not just, you got Dominicans, you got South Americans, everyone's there.
Okay.
Versus South Texas, where you have, Tex-Mex, which is at this point now just integrated culture. Texas has now just accepted the fact that half of their culture is always going to be Mexican.
And it's still mostly going to be Republican. I do have a thing to point out with this, though.
Sure.
You mentioned mixing of cultures, but every time I've seen anything related to your cuisine, it's always an amalgamation of culture anyway. Always has been. There's nothing you can say is definitively American. It comes from something else, another country.
That's true.
I saw that debate with someone who said they said hamburger, and the reply is, but the burger comes from Hamburg.
Yeah, and actually, in terms of just a meat sandwich, even Khan is recorded to have placed meat under his saddle and tenderized it as he rode before cooking it later.
Sandwiches came from sandwich.
Mm-hmm. But it was meat that he essentially had put onto bread. Yeah. But yes, American culture is a giant melting pot. We've always been that way. So
we Brits get a lot of shit for our what is dubbed a lack of culture, and I like to point out, but we invaded the world to get it, and also we succeeded at it. Also, some of our food is amazing,
and some of it's not.
You haven't had decent shepherd's pie. You know what I'm talking about.
No. Shepherd's pie is amazing. We actually have an Irish restaurant down the street from where I live.
Oh yeah. That's
And like when I tell you like it's like
Is it
like
hearty?
legit Irish food, it's amazing.
Is it hearty?
Now of course I go in there and they're always blasting Dropkick Murphys, but
Well, with mistakes.
yeah, true. But at least I like to go there and
Just a query while you're obviously salivating.
sometimes they have
on
the
this amazing
Dubliners
food.
play.
What would you? What? Hang on. What?
They also have the Dubliners play there sometimes.
Oh, I think you're talking
Yeah.
about Dubliner, the Irish whiskey, which is amazing. The
What is
liqueur is liqueur, honeycomb liqueur is amazing. Called Dubliner, honeycomb liqueur, amazing. Hello, Chaos. A quick query then. What would you dub to be bad English food?
Bad English food.
Yeah.
So you have a food that is, if I say it, we will be immediately demonetized. But
You
it's an
mentioned-
F slur.
Oh, it's the Welsh thing, Mr. Brains. Mr. Brains, the balls of meat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they rhyme with bagot, but it's an F instead of a B.
Right, I can't. So
Yeah.
that, yes,
So-
that.
I can eat 2 of them, and I can't eat any more for like a year because they're
Right.
really, really sickly. But it's a very old thing. That's why that's why they still have the name. Oddly enough, I like something that not many people in my house. I mean, me and my older sister, I think, like it, but we don't have it because my other sister won't buy it. I like liver and bacon. Liver and bacon, mashed potato and gravy. It's awesome. It's such a great meal. Oh, you're damn right. You tell him, Dave. You tell him. You get, even though we're both coffee people.
I was going to say, I'm a coffee person.
I mean, Dave, we were talking about this earlier actually, because obviously I can't do caffeine, and I've got this bourbon flavored, so chocolate biscuit flavored bourbon. And I say bourbon because it's spelt the same way as bourbon. It's bourbon chocolate biscuit flavored bourbon, and I was like, it would probably go well on a mocha, and he was like, we need to do that, and I was like, I'm decaf, and I kind of want it. I miss these foods.
Also, yes, spotted dick is also it's an interesting thing.
What you need
I
is a
don't
nice...
agree with beans on toast, but that's because I'm Hispanic and beans don't go on toast.
Dave, does beans go on toast, mate?
They go on rice. They go on rice.
Does it go on toast with cheese?
Yeah.
There you go. Extra mature as well, by the way.
Or a jacket.
They go on rice.
Just a quick thing about the suet, spotted dick. Nice, big, thick, spotted dick in your mouth with extra hot, like thick, gooey custard. You don't drip, don't drop it, don't spill a drip while that spotted, chunky, throbbing spotted dick is in your mouth, steaming in your mouth with that thick, gooey custard.
For those of you reviewing this video on YouTube to decide monetization, please note this is genuinely a English food.
It's called suet.
What?
Oh, thanks for that. No, I like that sound little thing. I heard the button click as well when you did that.
Yeah.
No, it's mushy peas is not good. But yeah, the spotted dick thing has been a running joke for me for about 5 years on Discord. Spotted dick in your mouth. All right. Bigger bit the better. All the custard. Make sure you swallow it. You drop a single drop of that custard, you're a bad girl. What? Anyway,
Stop it.
you have to
Stop
go
it.
You have to go pick someone up, I think.
I do.
I'm going to end this before we get further demonetized and double demonetized and triple demonetized, and I end up crying in the corner of the pennies I missed out on.
Oh yes, all the pennies.
Is there anything you would like to say before we finish?
I presume we will be here next week.
I'm here next week.
All right, good. We will be
2 in
here
a
next
row.
week. Fuck yeah.
All right, then. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We appreciate it. And to those who disagree with what we said today, please don't ever hesitate or fear to speak, because actually, people have left in the past and just accused Trups of being a right-winger and me an enabler of a right-winger. It's not like that. It's just, I genuinely, as an outsider, look at the American side and look at it and think, this is not as, that's right, nerdy, that's massively right. But it's just, you've got to, sometimes you need to come at it with an open mind for a bit, just to see whether there is a chance you might be wrong. I'm not saying you are, but I do think it's important. But thank you all for joining. Thank you to the Peanut Gallery for his contributions. And we will see you all next week. Say goodnight, Dave.
Good night, Dave.
Say goodnight, Trups.